All right, Coach, more time to think about the weekend. Just what did you think about the gameplay through two games against Notre Dame this week?
Good. We played some really good hockey, off it, and real happy with our effort or compete. I thought we did a much better job controlling the play on Saturday versus Friday. Forecheck was better, ozone time better. Our 50-50 battles, we were winning, you know, 60 plus percent of them. So the compete, the grind was there, and it was there Friday, but it was a little bit higher, obviously, on Saturday. That probably can be contributed to the atmosphere in the crowd, the excitement out of it, and I thought it was really two hard fought games. And like I said, there's nothing from my standpoint that I'm worrisome about or anything along those lines. That was a good hockey club, big, heavy, played like pros, and we did a good job, I think, managing their size. And I think the beginning on Friday was a little bit, learning, how to play, against that big of a team at times, and then also about the benches on the opposite sides. That's always a little bit challenging. So, but nonetheless, I was really happy with their weekend.
Yeah, how did you think about the outcome of the weekend? Both ties, so not a win or a loss. You had the shootouts, but you've talked about that before. Just do you care about the outcome of the weekend, or did you care more about playing to the standard that the guys did?
Yeah, we want to win every hockey game. That's why we go out. We do play to a standard and expectation, but at the end of the day, we don't go out there to tie or lose either, right? We go out to win every game we want to play, and but again, it's nothing where I sit here and on Monday, even after watching it, all day on Sunday, where I go, man, we weren't good. We were good. I thought we played good hockey, and this time of year, I've been really happy with our with our play from Christmas on. I think we're trending in the right direction, and now our next biggest challenge comes this Friday.
Was it difficult for you to manage emotions throughout the weekend, playing in a good atmosphere on a road and a new rink with some physicality in that game, and then coming home in the incredible atmosphere? You mentioned maybe slight concern about that.
Yeah.
How did you feel you were able to manage?
No, they were good. There was nothing we had to do. It was nice. Obviously, playing at home Saturday, you don't have to. I thought maybe, we always talked a little bit about pulling them back a bit, but then I thought about the movie Seabiscuit, right? I know you pull them back so long, but then you got to let them run, So for us, it was let's run when the puck drops, and there was no pulling back, and I thought the guys did a really good job.
Yeah. How did you feel about the performance in a tighter series, maybe the tightest since Minnesota State up in Mankato in the first half of the year, maybe the tightest since then? How do you feel like they handled that?
Real
that
good. No, we didn't have any panic. Both games we were down. You go up 1-0 on Saturday at home. We have the 5-on-3 we don't execute on. That would have been great to create some separation, get a 2-0 lead. Credit to them, they came out, scored two goals early in the second, right? Put us on a hill, and we got that big goal late in the second. And then I thought we elevated the third in overtime. We just didn't score. But these type of games that are tight, they're all close. Like you look back to our Lake State series, 3-1 with an empty net, 1-0 loss. You go up to Bemidji, 3-1 with an empty net. I know the next night was 5-1, but they're all right down to the final wire, right? So I think one thing you can assume, we were talking to our group, going into the rest of the season, is that there's probably a good chance we see some overtime. If I was probably thinking, out loud, like that's how close the games are and how tight they are. So we got to be willing. We got to be ready to play, from behind with leads. And we hope that the experiences we've encountered this year in those positions, only helps us, as we move forward.
Yeah, Quinn Emerson, forward of the week, 4-point weekend, but also seems like when he's on the ice in those big moments, tends to capitalize, just touching the puck on those goals, especially the game tying ones. Yeah. Just his play, we've talked about him a lot, but his play, especially in those moments down to the wire at the end of the game.
What Quinn is able to do is he puts himself in those positions because he goes to the right areas. You watch him out there. I was talking this morning with KP and Clint on the radio, is that when you see a player like him evolve, and I wasn't here for his junior days and Lone Star and in the BC League, and then he came here his first 2 years. I can only talk about his last 2 years, but last year he started to get in a little bit of a groove, playing with certain guys and finding a little niche and complimenting players. This year, I feel he drives the line. I feel like he's a guy that I can put with anybody, and he'll make those players better around him. he's not relying on other players to make him better. And when you can start to evolve into that type of player, now you've really adapted to the level you're at, which is now college hockey, and you become a constant fixture and a constant, prominent player for us. And for him, he plays a game that's just an honest blue collar, two-way game that's just as reliable, offensively as that he is defensively for us. He goes to the right areas, and he's a great leader in the locker room, and he brings it each night. So really happy to see him get obviously the forward of the week, and because Kurt was kind of given to me a little bit that the D have been getting it. They've been getting. I think Higgins got one once, and I'm trying to think Breck McKinley. So he was giving it to me that the forwards haven't gotten enough. So it's nice to see Q get that, so I can tell Kurt that forwards are now coming.
Yeah. Other seniors as well. Brett Foe injured toward the end of the game, but Nori's been out a couple of games now as well. You mentioned, and the guys mentioned a lot, playing for the seniors, extending, their careers. Just how much does that maybe weigh on the team, but also unfortunate seeing them not being able to play, missing games in their final season of college hockey.
You never want to see players injured on either team, our team. And as you just, said, seniors are always difficult too, right? And so we got to do our best to play as long as we can and get those guys back whenever they're healthy, But, obviously they're big factors to our program, both Dalton and Brett. And, we want them to get nothing more than a speedy recovery and know that at the end of the day, we're in their corner with them, to get them, back to as close to 100% as possible. And I know they're in the corner with the guys. They're around. They're passionate for BG hockey. They played a lot of games here, and we're going to do the best we can to get them back healthy. And on the ice, we're going to do the best we can to play as long as we can for them.
Have you been impressed, Coach, with the buy-in? I know we talked about the block shots earlier in particular, especially 8 in the first period on Saturday, but that buy-in and consistency throughout the game, the willingness to do that has really gone up as the season's gone on, right?
Yeah, and shot blocks are funny. Like you got to have them. You got to be able to be willing to sacrifice, put yourself in position. A lot of times on penalty kill, right off it. 5-on-5, if we get out of position or out of sorts, you might have to work to get back into a shot lane and sacrifice your body, for the betterment of the club off it. And then the other part I always say it's if you possess the puck more, you don't have to block pucks as much. If you play in the offensive zone more, you don't have to play in the hard working zone, off it. So I think our guys have done a good job of ozone time, and when we've needed block shots and to get in the lanes, and we do a good job with that. I did joke a little bit last year because I didn't think we had any D-men in the top 10 in the CCHA when they put out that little Instagram post. So I don't know where we are this year, off it. But at the end of the day, I think our willingness to play on the inside is evident. We defend hard. We defend, inside the dots, the blue paint. We're battling the walls often, and we don't give up a lot. Which is good. I think in league play, I know what our shots against are 22-23. I think in league play, something like that. Like, don't quote me, but it's not that, it's pretty good, and I think that's a testament too of maybe being in the right lanes and D shooting around per se, like coming out to the point, off it. So a lot of times you'll see a D-man on our team shoot short side in hopes that you get a ricochet off the boards or anything because of a player coming out in the right shot lane. So sometimes, block shots can be skewed, but I thought this weekend was big on it. And I go back to that Ohio State weekend. It's 5-3 with the goalie pulled. We have a photo with 14 seconds left, and we had 4 guys all lined up down on one knee. It's the best photo I've seen all year, off it. And I remember saying, like, that's how winners are made. You're up by 2, 14 seconds left. What are the chances of them probably really, even if they scored there, winning the draw, right, off a lot of guys. But if you look at that photo, all 4 guys had their right knee down. I think it was I know it was Gustav, Brody Waters, and someone else they're all in a line. It was great. It was like setting up a Fortnite wall, or something like that. Like you're not going to get over it or get through it, right? And so our guys they've really bought into the team concept of playing the game, right?
Notre Dame, did they give you a good tune-up for St. Thomas? You mentioned they have speed, but also they have some characteristics with some bigger bodies as well, and trying to get to the middle going to be tough at times against this team, right?
Yeah, in terms of a tune-up, like they're a team that they're built different than any team in our league. I think that I've seen. I haven't seen Augustana or Michigan Tech. Just a little bit on video, but and like I said, if you ask any fan, that's a big team. They were, and when I say big, like heavy. That's what's even more impressive. Like you can be tall, but when you're looking through their lineup and you're seeing 6'3", 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 210, 215, 212, 224, I'm like, whew. That's pretty hard, And then we went into overtime, and I forget who we sent out, but I was like, man, we're not very big right now, But again, we possessed the puck, played fast, played to our own identity, and that's fine. Every team has a different identity, and then they got to play within it. So Notre Dame's way of playing, St. Thomas's way of playing, our way of playing, they're all different, and they're all based off of the makeup of your hockey club. So then for me, it's about who can play to their identity consistently for 60-plus minutes will have the best chance to win.
Do you feel like your squad was able to get pucks up the wall a little bit better, too? I know that was an adjustment you wanted to make Friday going into Saturday. It might be a big point, too, coming into this week, right?
Yeah, you gotta win your wall battles, and your board battles are where everything's at, often. And was it Huey Lewis sang the song "Hip to B squared"? So board battles. So he says the thing, it's hip to B squared. So it's hip to win your board battles, right? We got to win them. Often you got to be able to battle. You got to be able to compete. You got to be able to, take information when you can pick it off the wall and get to the middle versus when you got a puck protected and maybe work with your centerman or D breaking the puck out. Like there's so much that goes into it. And you always got to remember when you're going to the wall like that, anywhere, there's another opponent trying to hit you. So it makes it really difficult, off it. But I think our wall battles are 50-50s. We got to manage pucks smartly. And we also know that's a really good hockey club coming in this weekend. So it's going to be a really good test for us. We haven't played them in some time. I think both teams have drastically changed from the last time we played in terms of where they were then to now. So it's going to be a really good test.
Coach, with the 4 remaining weeks of the regular season, you have 4 ranked teams as well as the 4 teams ahead of you in the CCHA standings. What are the advantages of being able to play the 4 teams ahead of you, especially when you're so close in the standings?
Yeah, well, we'll like this weekend is all I'm going to talk about, really, and we got the best team in the CCHA coming in. So for us, it's a good benchmark. It's a good standard for us to look at and reevaluate after the weekend where we're at, what we need to work on, what we need to do if we ever have the opportunity to play them again, off it. So I look at every weekend, as what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses, our areas of improvement. And this is what this weekend is for us too. And we could go out and play an unbelievable game and not win. We go out and play an average game and win. It comes down to, who's going to show up, a little bit of how the puck's going to follow. We make our own luck, but at the same time, there's a lot of things we control in that game that we're going to need to be on par, because one thing you can't do is give this St. Thomas team freebies. You got to make them earn and work everything. If you give them freebies, they're going to go in the back of the net. So we got to do a really good job of puck management. And like I said, at the end of the day, I'm not sure how the weekend's going to play out. We're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to be ready. We're going to compete. And then from there, we're going to have to reevaluate on Sunday and know it just like any other Sunday, just like I just went through yesterday. We just get back to the drawing board, get back to work, and hit the reset button and get focused for the following weekend.
St. Thomas has a couple of really dangerous scorers, Alex Gaffney, Lucas Wallen, Lucas Van Vliet. Is there any specific defensive adjustments you have to make to stop those players, or is it just like any other weekend?
Just got to know when they're on the ice, manage pucks smartly, kind of live to fight another day, not, we're going to obviously have different matchups with those guys, right, because they're elite players. But the one thing I always say to our guys, we should be able to put any line on the ice to defend. If I can't trust any line or a line to go out against any team's top line to defend, then I got bigger problems down to the roots often. You know what I mean? Like, everyone should be able to defend. That's a choice, often. We got to manage pucks against them. Like I said, you got to stay out of the penalty box because we got some pretty high-end players. But again, we'll definitely know when they're on the ice, and we got to make sure we have the right match against them.
Any more questions? Do you have anything on Jackson?
Jackson Niedermeyer, again, switching from forward to D this year, having so far a really good year. What have you seen out of his game this year?
Yeah, he's done a really nice job. Jackson's a player that you wish you could have coached 4 years. We got him for 2. He really, to me, he came here to be a forward. When he was at Arizona State, he played D there, as well a bit, and wanted to play forward. And this year, when we started going, we had some injuries early. And, where he was in the forward group, we asked him about, flipping back to D. And I remember saying to him, like, if you don't want to, no problem. I just want to, and you talk about a great senior, we talk about the senior class, and he's like, I just want to win, whatever we need. So we put him to the back end and started breaking pucks out, like, pretty impressively, considering he hasn't played 18 months D at the Division I level. And I watched him, I was like, man, it's pretty good. It's really good. And next thing you know, he's been a huge fixture for us on the back end. His willingness to go back for pucks, break pucks out, get up the ice. His skating's elite of elite. His playmaking is very high end. He sees plays. He develops plays with his speed coming up the ice. He brings it up with his head up. So I've been really, really happy with him, and he's been, a huge asset to our back end.
With all the injuries we've had, or that you've had so far this year on the defensive end, Sternberg missed quite a bit of time, and more recently Norris. What's it like having a senior like Niedermeyer to go back there and be a leader? Yeah,
it's great. And Jackson missed November and December. He was out with Goose there too. So obviously missing Dalton is a big blow as your captain right off it, and he brings more to our group than just what he does on the ice. He's the glue of the team. He's our leader. He's our go-to guy, and we need other guys to step up, like Jackson Niedermeyer, like Breck McKinley back there, and Gustav, and you're starting to see, guys like Braden Crampton, Ty Higgins starting to get comfortable and talk more, right? Like, because we got to win games and lead games by committee. And same with up front. So it's been one that we've leaned on all the seniors, but like I said, I'm really happy to see the way Jackson's been playing. It's reassuring, and like I said, when he's out there, he has a real calming factor, and I think that's really good. He plays a calm game. Some players play a hectic game, fast, a little chaotic. He can just mellow it down, and I think that's a really good skill set to have.
Speaking of the freshman, we saw Higgins score his first career collegiate goal. We saw Morneau score a goal in his first game back from injury. Braden Crampton had a 3-point weekend, including a goal. What did you see out of your freshmen this weekend, and how have they developed throughout the season?
Now they're evolving, aren't they? That's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to get better each weekend, each month. As we continue. We're in the latter half of your first year. You should, those that have made the adjustment already. Some are still kind of finding their way, Eddie, and that's okay too. It takes a little bit. Everyone has a different path, but those guys they're playing some really good hockey, logging some really good minutes. Like, again, when you look at, late in that game, you got 3 freshmen on the ice in the 4-on-3 with Q, right? So we're relying on them and everybody to contribute. But it's nice to see players starting to make that adjustment and be impacts throughout our lineup.